think black people have this may ruffle some feathers, but I don't give a fuck. I feel like black people have revolutionized poverty and made it look so fucking cool that people think we like it.
Nah, I ain't gonna lie.
I think that black people have made
That's a
poverty
fucking
look
bar.
so cool that people think we fucking like it, bro. We don't like it. We're just making the best of it.
Even the trauma that come from it, niggas aspire to it.
Like
niggas want to be a tough nigga. You don't realize this nigga ain't tough. This nigga just watch his daddy die and his mama on drugs and like his life. That nigga traumatized. That nigga got PTSD. He ain't tough,
but he got
he's traumatized, and to the point where a nigga could grow up in a home like this and aspire to be from the project.
It's because unfortunately people think that blackness is tied to poverty. They think that the black experience is being poor. That's why when you have others who equate poverty to being black, or I don't have any privilege, I grew up poor. Why the fuck do you think because you've been broke that you know what it feels like to be black? No, you don't. You've just been poor.
Well, I think that those people that say they're just liars. It's just like
I think that, like I said, we've made poverty look so easy and so cool that they think that it's
we
synonymous.
just are cool. You're not gonna take the cool. You're not gonna take the rhythm.
Is for the cool.
Yeah, you're not gonna take the rhythm out of black people's steps. You're not gonna keep black people quiet. I think
we're always gonna be too loud when we were never meant to be heard.
And you're never gonna stop us from being creative. So we're gonna find ways to express. And just as much as you're gonna have somebody that is gonna be critical of America, you're gonna have somebody that celebrate their neighborhood.
Correct.
And both things exist. And I think that you get into glorification when you got record labels pretty much creating a blueprint for what our music should be.
Right.
And they putting it in a spreadsheet. This does well and this does well.
And they got a checklist.
And they got a checklist and these words have to be mentioned and this is the subject matter.
And you're gonna tell me blackness.
And you're gonna tell me black.
Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones. As you can see the clip, we here breaking down this ideas and concepts around this supposed authentic blackness. You know, I know we've hit on it before, but we're gonna deep dive into it. You know, authentic blackness. What does it mean to be black, or what is cool about blackness? Because you know what I'm saying. Everybody wants to be black until it's time to be black, but why do everybody want to be black? And you know, they echo some of the things that other groups of people are attracted to. And so when I first saw this clip, it caught my attention right away. Of course, you know, it was how they was talking about it. It was just, you know, like you sitting around people at the corner store talking, and then somebody speaks something that got some sense. But it was the way it was delivered, and not just the message, but the way it was delivered that really caught my attention. But I figured I want to bring this to this platform and we talk about it because they was hitting on some real points about how black people are viewed by outsiders, how we view ourselves, what we glorify, what we look down on, what we think is cool, what we don't think is cool. Because, you know, they was like, black people are cool, but what defines our coolness, right? But we're going to get into all of that because it's interesting for us to analyze ourselves, but also analyze the lens from which others view us. And, you know, stereotypes exist, but we've also played deep into these stereotypes. And that has helped to get us where we are because, you know, one of the things they mentioned was about the influence of the record labels. And remember, at one point, this music was ours. And then real early in the game, it wasn't ours anymore. And then, you know, you got all these, what gangster rap hit the scene and all the hood movies and everything that came out in the late 80s and early 90s. And we're talking about shaping people's mindsets, social engineering. So let's get into it, man, because I've been on it all day. It's been a long day. I've been up since 6 this morning. I just got home, but hey, let's do this. Pat, you got that intense look on your face, man. What do you think about the clip? What do you think about some of the concepts? Oh, what do you think about what they were saying, basically?
I like what they were saying, and I thank you for finally finding the clip where we ain't got to go off on the messenger and the message.
Every now and then I do that.
Yeah, you know, this is great for my mental health. Um, I appreciate you, good brother. No,
Yes, sir.
I like what they were saying. I agree with the bulk of what they're saying. I disagree with some of the ways that it's presented, especially in terms of we make things look cool. I
wrote that
think
down.
cool is relative, is subjective, is our perspective. Of course, we think we make things look cool. We're doing it. Um, so but the key point that they were making is that uh for me was the takeaway that poverty and blackness have been intertwined,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that I've been having conversations with a lot of people about as they talk about how how they feel like they've missed out on the black experience. And then you ask them what the black experience is, and they describe poverty. Now, they don't say broke and blah, 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 but they describe things that people that don't have resources do, not because they're black, but because they don't have resources. So when you start talking about the family camaraderie and the chicken and the cookouts and the way the meals are prepared and all of these other things, yes, there's some black expression in that, but you can get all of that without all of the other stuff. Some of that stuff, though, is an expression of poverty especially in terms of, and this is one thing I think that's interesting, the closeness of black families.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that is a black thing. I think that's an impoverished thing. And the reason I say that is because when you take resources away from any family, no matter the culture, the natural instinct is for them to group together. They become closer because now they need each other more to survive. When you give that family or members of that family resources, one of the very first things that they do is they start to spread out. They start to meet up a lot less often.
True.
You know what I'm saying? They start to get together a lot less frequently, and they start to interact a lot less frequently. And so what you see in there, like the whole family, the black family cookout, the way we do the cookout, sure, that's an expression of black culture, but the need for the cookout in and of itself, that thing that ties black family to get families together, that's not a black thing. That's an impoverished thing, in my opinion. And again, I'm not saying that's cut and dry. I understand it's a whole little line there in a gray area there. But by and large, that every week cookout at Big Mama's house, yeah, that every Sunday dinner at Big Mama's house, that tends to happen a lot less frequently on every Sunday when everybody got money. So you have to start asking yourselves questions about, well, how much of the black, and it becomes a difficult thing to tease out because it's so closely entwined. And there are people that could speak directly to this, specifically people that have gone from being impoverished to having resources, but those tend to not be the people that we want to listen to, because when they speak about the transition out of poverty, we begin to look at them as if they're speaking about a transition away from blackness, which in and of itself is an expression of the linkage between poverty and blackness. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with them when they say, you're looking at somebody that don't want to be like that. That's just somebody dealing with trauma. And that's me disagreeing with the whole context of the trauma conversation, where you have people saying that they talk about trauma as if it's gum stuck to the bottom of your shoe. And if you just peel it off, then the shoe is restored to form. And that's not how trauma works. When you go through a traumatic experience, you change. The experience changes you. There is no going back. You're not that person anymore. And so when you're working with people with trauma and you're not trying to get them back to the way they were. You're trying to teach them how to cope with the new person that they are in the world that they're in. And so it gets to be kind of frustrating because I heard somebody else talking about black trauma, and they were saying that it's difficult to understand black people because unless you understand black trauma, you don't understand who black people really are, because you mistake our trauma for who we are. And it's like, yet again, we're having this conversation like trauma is some trench coat that you put on and you just walk around in it. And if we could just get black people to take the trench coat off, everybody could see who we really are. And it's like, no, that's not how trauma works. You can't take the coat off. The coat is your skin now. That's you. That's what you do now. So that part gets to be frustrating, but I don't like I don't like that piece. But I love that we're having the conversation about what it means to be black. And we're trying to tease that out from all of the attributes that have been affiliated with it. And I can appreciate us wanting to be, this goes back into another conversation we had. I can appreciate us wanting to be overly positive about it, but I wonder, like, even in that conversation, how much are they really seeing black people in the black experience and really accepting it? And how much is it they're seeing it, but then they put it on rose tinted glasses, and they just trying to make it seem better than it really is, and they're trying to, like, they're sugarcoating stuff, and they don't want to accept the negative aspects of what we have become here in America. And so I have questions about the conversation on that end that we can't really answer from that clip. So again, to sum it up and then land, I love the fact that we're having conversations about what the black experience is and trying to find the unique lane that the black experience exists in, and a kind of cultural line that flows through all different types of socioeconomic backgrounds and statuses. But if we're going to have this conversation, I think we have to be real about the conversation and not attribute bad attributes to exterior forces so that we don't have to take blame and ownership for our negative expressions.
Right. But so you gave a bridge to what I was going to PC with, because I want to ask PC from a different angle. Yes, I do want your overall thoughts on the clip, but us romanticizing, because they talked about trauma being cool, like being traumatized is cool. So basically, it's like a romanticizing the trauma that black people have experienced. Not only because Pat took the angle of wearing the trauma, but she hit on the angle of the romanticized. I can't say that goddamn word right now. Black people romanticizing trauma, making it cool.
And about, yeah, Pat covered like about 18 different angles and really put it all together nicely. I'll say that. So
thank you.
Hey, anytime, brother, you know. But yeah, I think that's the aspect that I have trouble with, is the romanticizing of the culture from a standpoint of, because when you say poverty, that's another word for saying ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, when you hear other people from other cultures, when they want to mimic black culture, or when they want to say or ascribe to saying they're dealing with something, there's typically a negative connotation of black culture. They'll call it ghetto, to sort of like dance around the language. But I think that also we play a role in that, because we collectively have made our situations, like Pat said, look cool. And we've made it where even black people who make it out of certain situations always feel a need to indulge in that same culture that they escaped in terms of poverty. And not just indulge in it, but sort of like glamorize it. Mm-hmm. So we romanticize the notion from the perspective of letting everybody know that where we come from, it wasn't easy. You had to be made of something stern, something tough, in order to make it out of our situations. But we do it so well that most of us can't see a life outside, so we take that with us. So you'll see black wealthy, black people who escape the poverty situation. You'll see their children indulging in the same mannerisms and behaviors that they just came from because they want to mimic it now. They want to show that they can keep it real. They want to show that they stand on business. You see it with the parents too. And I don't mean to go to the celebrity circuit, but that's where a lot of black wealth is. And you see it with the issues and the trouble that the celebrities get into. And so when I hear the people talk about how we don't like the poverty, I think a lot of us are perfectly comfortable with the poverty. We just don't like not being able to pay our bills. So many people can figure out a way to pay their bills. They're perfectly fine. We talk about it all the time. We like the culture because the culture doesn't make us have to be accountable for upgrading our moral system. So our system of morality or our system of values doesn't have to change as long as we can ascribe to being ghetto, as long as we can ascribe to being impoverished, as long as we can coincide with that culture, because now I'm not expected to be able to read proficiently. And if I do decide to read proficiently, I'm no longer black, I'm acting white. If I decide that I don't want to go to, or I don't want to indulge in certain activities in my neighborhood, I think I'm better than everybody else because I don't want to smoke and I don't want to drink. If I decide to go to college, I come back, the person that comes out of prison is more celebrated than the person who graduated from college.
Yes.
And it's because many people see that person that went to college as stepping out of their proverbial access or levels, as we like the word that everybody like to use is levels. But the person that comes out of prison, he kept it real. Nobody kept it real for going to college. But I mean, because the only time we celebrate those folk is when it's Black History Month.
Right.
And we do that with a side eye because we then juxtapose Malcolm and Martin. Well, I'd rather, be a disciple of Malcolm than Martin. Well, be honest with you, why are you choosing? You can say you may have some issues with how one or the other was perceived, but why do you have to choose? Because it's harder to keep it real. I'll have you know, many of you, Malcolm X was a hated figure when he was alive in the Black community. The Black folk on the block hated Malcolm. The only ones that had any love for Malcolm were the ones who followed him after he left the Nation of Islam. So to see how the perception is celebrated, we love it because it's a claim to victimhood. And I find that many in our community think that there's power in being a victim. And because there's power, because you get the attention of being a victim, we mistake attention for power and something that actually makes us feel something. And many of us, honestly, we understand that as long as we cling to ghetto narratives, as long as we cling to that lifestyle, we won't be a threat to our true enemy. So we hate on each other even more when we see ourselves, when you see people moving and navigating through those concrete playgrounds in those brick cities, and you see people navigating and finding a way out. Many of them can't even come back to their neighborhood. And it's not because they did something as, you know, it's not because they became a snitch. It's not because of anything else. It's because now they become a target. So overall, in terms of addressing the culture and so forth, a lot of us like
Boy.
I mean,
What the hell?
I mean, I have a brother, Dr. James Jones. You both know the brother, and he spoke of a woman who was a doctor herself, PhD, and she ghosted him. They met. She ghosted him. She saw him 6 months later, and said the reason she ghosted him is because she didn't think she could keep up with him. Because she likes to let her hair down when she comes home from work and sit on the porch and smoke a blunt, and she don't think he would smoke a blunt with her. Like, that's the mindset we still have. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to this whole concept, we still have to we feel like we have to clean to those things.
Right. That's
And
right.
you know, with that, I land the plane.
So I want to, PC, you made me think about something, and I want to show a clip from Black Family Institute, Brother Rodney Smith. One of the videos we did was looking at one of his students talk about his basically was talking about his Black experience, but like you talked about, Black people who are educated, Black people who want to be the greatest version of themselves, that's not hood, that's not ghetto, that's not street, that's not considered cool. You know, they're seen as outcasts. But this is the young boy speaking about his experience and feeling like an outcast. Wrong button.
And it's accepted, it's wanted. Like, people want them to be called. But in school, think about it. School is not like when you think about your Black male peers, what do you see? How do you see your Black males being treated?
Well, I see them like as I kind of estrange myself from them because
He said he estranges himself from his Black male peers. That's why I brought this up, because this is what a lot of people do not. Okay, so you are hype back there. This is something that people do not want to talk about. Since we are brought up in this capitalistic, materialistic, competitive environment, we forget what impact that has on the minds of our youth, especially our young Black male youth.
and it's not. I feel like it's my own problem. Like, I feel bad because I do that, and you know how like humorous I am in class.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I build up this wall. Like,
Here he said, "Do you see how humorous I am in class?" Because he's trying to use the humor to deal with his nervousness, to deal with his anxiety of feeling like he doesn't fit in with the rest of the Black males in class. Because earlier I talked about how this student has a large vocabulary, is very intelligent, and many times in class he'll use his intelligence to be humorous, so he doesn't seem so smart. It's sad to say, but a lot of kids do not want to seem smart around their peers because that intelligence is not accepted socially amongst Black people as something good, as something to be celebrated. But I'll just hit play real quick.
I'm scared to try to connect with them.
He said, I'm scared to connect with them, but he knows the humor will connect with them. Humor connects with everybody.
Because I don't want to speak that way, but still, because you know how I was raised. Yes, but still, I mean, it's just ironic. But like, I still want to be, with my peers, and
see, he still wants to be with his peers. He still wants to be amongst other Black men.
You get it. So this is an example of the negative effects of what's happening with this young man, right? the culture, like PC said, like black people want to be right. Black people like acting like unfortunately aspire to be them. You know, I live in the college town, and so I see people who go for masters and PhDs who, like PC said earlier, they still got to keep it real. Like this element of keeping it real is the mindset of I have to have at least 1 foot in the streets. And if I have at least 1 foot in the streets, then I'm still really connected with my black people. I'm still really a black person because authentic blackness is associated with crime. Authentic blackness is associated with poverty. Authentic blackness is associated with hopelessness. Authentic blackness is associated with living in the ghetto, food stamps, a whole bunch of kids. Like we talked about earlier, the trauma. Like who romanticizes trauma but traumatized people?